G'day guys, Bingham here. Today's video is going to go over the behind the scenes to the Andy C video shoot that myself and Hamish collaborated on. Now this fell at a very crazy time of the year, so I had the Fujifilm X-T5 launch on the Thursday night, down to Christchurch to shoot the show on the Friday, and then flying back to Auckland at 6 AM on the Saturday morning. So the lack of sleep was definitely real, but it's all worth it for these sorts of things. So the bulk of today's video is actually going to go into what encompasses a shoot like this, what goes into the planning, the shooting, the editing, and so forth. But to give you a bit of perspective, we were shooting the after movie for the promoter. On top of that, I also took the Mamiya down and ran a roll of cine still through. So it's going to be cool to show you guys the behind the scenes process of that as well and give a little bit of insight. Now, given that myself and Hamish live in two different cities in New Zealand, a lot of the planning and preparation for this project was actually done on Zoom.
Oh, g'day, mate.
How we doing?
Shit, I love the background.
Oh, likewise. You got some bloody shallow depth of field on that.
Given that myself and Hamish have collaborated a number of times on projects like these before, it was good to be able to sit down and just figure out our strengths and weaknesses and how we can see that working together. Now, on top of this, we know that Andy C was going to be doing a 4-hour set, so we chatted about how the show is actually going to run itself.
And he's on for 4 hours. Like,
Yeah.
you know, it's not like we've got an hour or whatever to capture everything.
That's actually a good point. It's not like a hybrid mind show where it kind of goes up, peaks,
Yeah.
finishes, you know, it's like, it's going to be gradual the whole way, like in terms of the way it's going to run.
Yeah.
It was actually pretty manic leaving Auckland because, as I mentioned, I had Thursday, Friday at the Fujifilm X-T5 launch. Trying to get to Auckland Airport on a Friday afternoon is a battle in itself. And then on top of that, my flight was delayed. So I'd given myself about an hour or two's leeway if I was on time.
So I fly in at 7:55.
Oh, fuck. Wait, you land at 7:55? Or you land
Yeah.
That was not the case, and it was actually stressing me out big time, eh? Like,
Please come forward to board your aircraft through gate 33. All for remaining customers will be made shortly. That flight ends at 6:09.
How's it going?
Hi, good, thanks yourself.
Yeah, good, thank you. Cheers.
it's one of those things where I was just sitting in the airport, just like, no one talked to me, just like headphones in, just sweating. But I got there in the end. I think I got to the show maybe 20 minutes before the show started, made it and pulled through. But I think next time I'm going to give myself a little bit of extra time allowance on the flight down.
What's up, bro? How are you? Sorry for the wait, man.
Now, to knuckle into the actual shooting, it was kind of broken up into two factors. So in the past, I've usually done the gimbal runs and the wides and those high energy shots, whereas Hamish kind of focuses on the artist and the people and sort of the tighter focal lengths. Focused on that for this video project again, and it worked really well. We worked hand in hand, and we felt like we covered the show from all aspects and angles and keeps that diversity.
Thank you very much, Christchurch. You guys have been amazing. One more time. RDC, RDC, RD. Look.
The one thing that we struggled with the show was the lighting in the production. Unfortunately, there was no CO2 and there was no pyro. So that made it very hard in terms of finding those high energy shots, given that we were just dealing with lasers. There were times when the blinders came on and it was good to be able to capture those moments and use them in the video. But when it came to the majority of the 4-hour set, it was very hard to pick and choose our moments. Now, on top of this, it makes for a very dark and moody edit because you can't be pulling up your shadows too much in this sort of environment. Other than that, we feel like we hit the nail on the head in terms of capturing those energetic moments and using them in the right place in the aftermovie. In terms of the gear that we were shooting on, myself and Hamish both had an XH2S each and a variety of X-series lenses covering the range. So a lot of you guys are probably going to think, why on earth were you shooting a crop sensor at a low light music event? The way the XH2S handles the shadows and the highlights, the dynamic range is just incredible. When you apply the Rec. 709 conversion LUT, it just makes for a very sharp and dynamic image, which then makes it very easy to grade. As I mentioned before, one of the trickiest things that we had to deal with was the production and trying to match our shots to ensure we captured that in amongst the crowd and the DJ. Now, we timed it with the blinders and we also timed it with the lasers, but in regards to other times, it was just a matter of keeping that peripheral vision and trying to almost tell the future in terms of what was going to happen. I've seen Andy C play a couple of times now, so you kind of know when there's going to be the high action moments in his sets, but it's just a matter of listening and getting a feel for the music, and you slowly get in that rhythm of, okay, something big's going to happen here, I need to get into position. And that was just continuous throughout the whole night, and being able to change it and keep it diverse between being at the back of the venue, being up on stage, being off to the side, just keeping it quite fresh. It was the same story when it came to shooting the film content on the Mamiya, except this time you just don't have the raw data in your imagery to pull back your highlights or pull up your shadows. So I had to keep that in mind, again, waiting for those high energy moments. Yeah, it was really cool to be able to see how these film stocks behaved, but it was also really cool to just be able to shoot some film in this sort of environment, especially with such a huge artist. I do just want to mention the Fujifilm X-H2S and how it performed in this sort of environment. Now, we can throw the crop sensor argument out the window because full frame is a crop of medium format and medium format is a crop of large format. So it doesn't matter what system you shoot, it's just that full frame has been made the industry standard. Now, the camera has proven itself in the way it renders shadows and highlights, the dynamic range. The size and the weight of the camera was perfect for this style of shoot. You're on your feet for 4 hours. You can't really sit down and get a break. And not having sore shoulders and sore back and sore body in general was just a huge benefit. The battery life was great in terms of we used 4 batteries across 2 bodies for the entire night. The storage was a bit of a two-sided sword. We were using 128 gigabyte cards and we were filling them up relatively quickly. Now, this wasn't because we were overshooting. We couldn't overshoot because the production was so dark, but in terms of the camera's performance, it is something that you do need to be aware of, that you're recording at very high data rates, you're going to be filling your cards quickly. When it came to the edit, given that me and Hamish live in 2 different cities in New Zealand, we had to do everything remotely. So worked in a Teams project on Premiere Pro, and that actually meant we had to have the footage locally. So as soon as we got home from the gig, it was about 2:30, I had to be up at 5 a.m. for my flight back to Auckland, so 2.5 hours. Copying 400 gigabyte of footage in 2.5 hours is a clinical procedure. Like, I was sweating bullets. I had the last 5-10 gig to go, and my Uber was waiting outside, honking his horn, telling me to hurry up. When it came to the actual edit, we found it relatively easy to structure and plan out everything because we had done all the previous planning and storyboarding. Now, the backstage is what we wanted to open with, and then we moved into introducing the artist and location and so forth. Everything following on from that just flowed really nicely, just making sure that people's movements, whether it was hands going up or down or movements with the DJ's arms, just making sure that everything just flowed as it would and that there was no jolts or anything like that. So just being really aware of that happening and just aware of the motion that was in the scene. Well, that concludes this video. A very hectic 24 hours down in Christchurch, but in saying that, a huge honour to shoot Andy C and MC Tom Piper as well. Massive thank you to you guys for tuning in and watching. Big thank you to Hamish for being a part of this collaboration, and great efforts on the video. It was just insanely fun to shoot this sort of content with you. And a big thank you to Tony and the crew at Southern Shakedown for putting on such a great event. But like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. Cheers.